So welcome to our panel discussion on Unveiling the Inflection Point, the fusion of AI and silicon, and key takeaways for enterprises. In our discussion today, we'll delve into the intersection of AI, data management, storage, and silicon technologies, exploring how the fusion is reshaping the business landscape and what it means for companies, particularly like AMD and Pure Storage, who play a pivotal role in providing cutting-edge technological solutions. I encourage active participation from all the attendees by posting questions in the meeting chat, and we'll take it up towards the end if time permits. Please allow me to introduce the panelists for today. Dan Kogan. Dan is the Vice President, Product Management and Marketing for Flash Array at Pure Storage. With a distinguished career spanning leadership roles across the United States and Asia, Dan brings a wealth of experience and expertise to his current position. Dan spearheads product management initiatives for Flash Array Cloud and as a service offerings. His strategic oversight extends to driving go-to-market strategies aimed at propelling overall business growth for Flash Array. We are honored to Dan also served as Chief Marketing Officer at Azuqua. We are honored to have you, Dan, here to join with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. The second speaker we have is Suresh Andani. Suresh is the Senior Director within the server business unit at AMD. Suresh's role encompasses the strategic oversight and flawless execution at AMD EPYC, powered cloud infrastructure's go-to-market strategy, positioning him as a key architect of success in the cloud computing landscape. His commitment shines through his relentless pursuit of excellence as he strives to providing cutting-edge, high-performing, reliable cloud compute infrastructure powered by AMD. We are delighted to have you, Suresh, here with us, and we eagerly anticipate your insights and thoughts. The moderator for today. Thank you so much. The moderator for today's panel discussion is Atit Dhawan. It's my pleasure to introduce you, Atit, our Senior Vice President and Business Head, Americas Semicon and High Tech at Tech Mahindra. With over 22 years of industry experience, Atit brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to his role. In his previous role as Chief Transformation Officer at Tech Mahindra, Atit distinguished himself by orchestrating impactful business transformations. His strategic acumen and visionary leadership have been pivotal in steering the organization towards success. Over to you, Atit.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Dan. And thanks to all the audience being here with us. I think we are at an inflection point of AI, silicon, storage, data coming together. And I personally feel nothing better to start this panel of series of discussions which we are having with multiple industry leaders to have you over here, listen to your views and perspectives so that we all can gain from your experiences. Thank you for this opportunity to us, Dan, Suresh. We are highly obliged for you being starting our panel series today. If we just move before to a real moderated session, I would like to tell you from the Tech Mahindra perspective, we have been in this industry for more than 2-3 decades now, with more than $100 million plus investments on innovation labs, more than 18,000 people working on this just in a high-tech space. We have created our own positioning while working with almost all the key enterprises which exist in this market. And while working with you, we realize that this industry is taking forms and shapes in a new form as we are moving ahead. And before we really get into a session, I thought I would enrich you with some of the industry trends which we are seeing, and then move ahead with some of the specific views and the questions which I have for you as we move forward in this discussion. While we move ahead and just move the slide, Sagar. As we move, obviously this is not, unknown to any one of us. The market is changing, it's growing. AI chip market is taking leap and fold growth. The CAGR, when we take from multiple industry reports, we find it's more than 30% on the AI side of it. Statistics well known, the industry is going to shape in a very different form in next 2 years from now. When we see it from the position of working with chip companies or equipment manufacturers or OSATs or foundries, we found it's a very, very typical blend where industries coming together. And many of the places we are finding that softwares are getting closer to the hardwares now. And that's a trend which is being very prevalent as we move forward from the industry statistics and growth perspective. What I would like to draw your attention on the growth drivers, high performance computing. I think this is what we are seeing across. Whenever we are talking to all the enterprises we are connecting with, we find with the new emerging trends on high performance application demands, right on the edge, driving the AI frameworks there. This is one of the area which is being the key growth driver which we foresee. Increasing industry adoption. With many of you, we are working across in identifying joint use cases where how can we make the faster adoption of Gen AI and AI. And, this is being a buzzword for many years now. But when we recently visit to Davos or any of the forums, we are finding it's real now for us. It's a matter of putting into a use case into a different industry, and we have been working it across with our partners to make it live, to make the adoption live across the industry. And how do we make it more accelerated efforts as we move forward? The third one is specialized hardware. We are seeing sophisticated AI algorithms coming into a play. Specialized hardwares are coming into a play while we are bringing it across. And while we will take a view from Suresh, from you and Dan, we also see the combination of CPUs and GPUs coming together. How do we make it more power efficient? How do we make it more sustainable as we move forward from the industry perspective? And finally, the manufacturing advancement. Innovations in semiconductor fabrication processes and techniques going across to the world. And since you guys from your industry presence perspective are holding that nucleus position to drive on, your views around these trends and drivers will be very helpful for us to really take this forward. Also, as we move forward, just one more slide on market trends and key challenges. And I'm just setting because these are the things that's going to come in next 45 minutes in our conversations also. On the trend perspective, we are seeing AI integration in semiconductor manufacturing, whether it is on design optimization side and how do we increase the device design efficiency, faster time to market. How do we take a predictive maintenance to the semiconductor equipment manufacturing side? Everything is surrounded around how are we making the chips intelligent and how are we bringing the AI in every phase of integration. That's a first trend we are seeing. More than more, MTM technologies, I believe every day there has been a challenge on how do we bring a heterogeneous environment together. So the new ways of working together across with different partners, making joint use cases is again a key trend we see in the market. And time to digital converters, the precision strike on how do you make a real-time analysis as the things are converting it across. And while we see AMD in that position to bring it across the complete ecosystem on precision side, similarly on the storage side, with all these trends, how is the security playing the role? How do we make the environment more secure, more business continuity coming our way? I think these are the key trends we are finding. But at the same time, industry also goes through multiple challenges as it's taking pivoting around with a faster space than anybody would have thought in last 2-3 quarters, whether it is an R&D cost, whether it is a talent available across the market, supply chain vulnerability. We have seen that in COVID, one chip has stopped or deaccelerated complete industry on the automation side or the automobile side. So I think supply chain vulnerability continues to be a top focus. Regulatory challenges, we all know there are government policies coming in, whether it is US creating its policies or China working it across on the policies on these sides. So we believe these will trend out to be in a different side as we move forward. And finally, rapid technology advancement. We all would agree, there are big players emerging it across from the big pockets of investment perspective. But at the same time, what we are seeing, there are a lot more new companies coming in this space. And when I reflect back to the countries like India, we believe they are doing a lot of good work in terms of investing into this industry, bringing those plants together. So this ecosystem, we believe, with trends and challenges, continue to ride across. We as a Tech Mahindra or any of the partners can really come together with you to make sure that how do we pivot around to these trends and capture to the previous market growth. What we have seen is a 30% CAGR on the silicon and AI space, and we are pretty excited to go forward. So I think I take a pause there, but this is how at least we see from the position where we really sits in between of OEMs and the real industry and enterprises. We hold that advantage of talking to 1,200 plus enterprise customers currently, and we found all of them are talking now to us in a very different landscape of schemes. The people are talking around, how do you bring the AI closer to me, right in my business sphere, right for my customer, and what is a customer success coming to be when we bring this complete cloud, storage, data, and AI ecosystem and chips together. That's how, at least from the position that we see from the perspective of market trends, challenges. And we are excited to have you all to get the views and share your views with the audience here. Moving ahead, maybe my first question to you, Dan. You have been in a storage space for pretty long. You have your niche segment of working with pure storage with multiple enterprises. What will GenAI mean for data storage? As per your point of view, Dan.
So it's very exciting for the data storage industry. I mean, I think storage is the foundational element for essentially every Gen AI project that's out there. So it's invigorating the industry as a whole. It's forcing customers to think about their entire data pipeline, from the bottom end of the data stack to storage all the way up to the tools and the co-pilots and the things customers are actually, the end users are actually experiencing with. And it's forcing storage vendors to have a point of view on those kind of things and be able to articulate the benefits all the way up and down the stack, to have tighter integrations, deeper partnerships up and down the stack, and offer customers more complete solutions. But I think it's pushing the storage industry further into complete solutioning. It's, again, pushing us to have much more interesting, much more strategic conversations with customers than maybe have happened over the last few years. The storage has been viewed a little bit as a commodity, and it's now really the core strategic foundational element to customers' AI projects and AI journeys.
Awesome. And when you see this journey moving forward, Dan, do you really see how important is the partnership in this to take it to the customer? And where do you see these partnerships playing a pivotal role while you are building across your own enterprise based on the storage side, and you see this taking a different turn of events? That's where partnership becomes very important. But what is your view on, Dan, on bringing the partners in this ecosystem together and taking it to the enterprises?
So I view critically important is the short answer. And I see this kind of going down two paths. There are we'll call it software and other technology vendor partnerships that we look to, from databases to AI modeling players, your run AIs, your AnyScales, your weights and biases, and companies like that. And it's pushing us to have partnerships with new technology companies that we haven't had before and provide customers more of a full stack. And then from business consulting, technology consulting partners like Tech Mahindra, that's a really critical element, helping customers put together their AI and data strategy all the way up and down the line, starting with what is the end output you're trying to get through your Gen AI projects. How can these projects help all of your employees become 25, 50% more impactful, more productive, those kind of things? That sort of thought leadership really kind of comes from the consulting partners that we have, like Tech Mahindra. And then there's how do you do that? How do you actually implement that? What are the tools? What are the processes, the change management, the actual work to build that infrastructure and build the technology stack behind the scenes in order to achieve those benefits? That's something we have to work hand in hand with strategic consulting companies to be able to do and deliver customers that full solution, from the business outcomes focused side of it to the really integrated deep technical stack.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. And I think I completely agree with you. In most of our customer conversations, it's coming out very clearly. Where is the consulting element of bringing together? Where is that outcome-oriented approach? While it's no more just being one solution deployment, it is all about bringing those outcomes, bringing those consulting elements, and that's where these partnerships. So I completely agree with you, play a very, very important role. But going to Suresh, this applies to you also. You being leading the industry in terms of developing those high-end chips who could really work across on the cloud environment side and making this complete execution work. How do you think these partners coming together make a lot of sense from you taking those use cases and business models to your customers? And also, a related question is how do you play your AI frameworks together when the companies like Google and large coming together? What are those differentiators that you see from AMD point of view?
Absolutely. Thanks, Satish. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone here. Really exciting topic and probably topic of the hour, day, month, whatever is your measuring stick. Now, coming back to your first question, Adit, how do we see like our partnerships with strategic partners such as Tech Mahindra, right? So I'll say this, and I think Dan will agree with me, right? If you look at AMD and even Pure Storage, we really bring the most high performance platforms, energy efficient platforms. We are a big ingredient in the solution. That said, those platforms are either deployed on-prem or in the cloud. From that point on, really you have to start thinking about the industry use cases. So if you are in manufacturing, you need to start thinking about how do you do predictive maintenance on a factory line? What is the best solution here with regards to what piece of that compute resides on-prem, what needs to go in the cloud? It's not an easy decision. It basically involves IT budgeting, optimizing your spend, making sure your workload is deployed where it gives you the maximum performance, latency, throughput, whatever is your KPI, and it also gives you the lowest total cost of ownership. And for that purpose, we really need our partners such as Tech Mahindra to come in and really guide the customers, as you guys have been doing that for decades. So where we see ourselves is to provide the strongest ingredients, but the recipe comes together for the solution through partners like Tech Mahindra. So that was the first part, and that's how I kind of view this ecosystem. Very, very critical in short again. Now, your second question, Adit, if I kind of got it right, is how is AMD kind of partnering, in some cases competing with the big tech when it comes to AI kind of hardware and infrastructure? Yeah. So the right way to think about it is if you look at all our on-prem OEM partners and our cloud partners, it's how are we enabling them, right? We don't think of AI as just in the data center or just in the cloud, right? AI starts from your IoT device like AI PC, goes to the edge. It's in your own data center. And then you have to really go train your models in the cloud. So there's a whole ecosystem of partners, both OEMs and cloud CSPs that we work with to enable both our CPU-based AI/ML technologies, where the LLM models are up to a certain size. And then we also have the industry-leading GPUs that we just launched recently. And it's about working with those solution and platform providers to really take our technology, put their solutions, work with partners like Tech Mahindra to really bring that whole solution together and put it in the market. Large LLMs is the talk of the town, buzz of the nation, whatever you call it, right? So we launched very, very exciting product line with MI300X recently, and MI300A, which is not just powering now data centers and cloud data centers like on our stage, we had Microsoft come in and announce their adoption of our AI/ML kind of GPUs, the Instinct series. Meta did the same. Oracle came in and talked. So there's a lot of adoption going on with our key customers in that and bringing that technology to bear to the marketplace. We have a roadmap. We are competing with our closest partner here, competitor here in the Bay, who has the major market share on AI GPUs. But with our technology and our inference and the products we are launching, we are very, very excited about the future.
Oh, excellent, Suresh. I mean, you touched multiple aspects, Suresh. One, obviously, on how these partnerships can really accelerate the adoption across different lines by bringing your technology and different cloud platforms also coming together. Another thing you very interesting touch base is on LLMs. Okay, and we being Tech Mahindra, we created our own Indus LLM in India, which is on Hindi languages, and now we are seeing a lot of adoption across when we are talking to different both at industry level and as at a government to government level. We are seeing a lot more interactions coming across to it. And the more of those happens, the more of the MI 200x kind of a machines and chips and working it across from adoption styles work across. So I see this not only at a large scale LLMs, but also at an enterprise side. We are seeing a lot more discussions now happening on how do you converge and make LLMs and bring the use cases across to it, Suresh. So excellent point that you brought in, and I truly echo you that we are hearing the similar sentiments from the industry side to it. But at the same time, Suresh, we are also thinking, is AMD looking on RISC-V architecture for their cloud and data centers sometime soon? Because we believe that power, performance, and coming together along with sustainable efforts to make it. Is there a path towards RISC-V that you are looking at from AMD perspective?
Yeah, at this point, that's a good question, Atit. At this point, right, so we always are constantly evaluating competitive architectures. Obviously, the whole world knows that we are an x86 shop, right? We are basically the x86 64-bit architecture came from AMD. All our products are x86 based. That said, we constantly evaluate not just RISC-V, but also the ARM architecture to see if and there are two purposes for it. One, we always want to make sure that we know what the competitive threat is, right? How are they performing? We're never the company to say that our competitors are in a rearview mirror. So we always kind of make sure we are constantly evaluating that and measuring how our architecture and performance does against them. But also as a business opportunity arrives where we think that, hey, might be better to do custom chips on a given architecture for a niche use case, we'll probably go and look into that, and we constantly do that. At this point, we are very, very focused. The way our roadmap is with x86 architecture, with just the architecture, the IPC, the gen over gen performance, the core densities that we are getting, we're very comfortable with our roadmap with x86, but I would definitely say that we're constantly evaluating other architectures. And that's all I could say at this point.
No, thanks, Suresh. And I think it obviously makes sense because these innovations take time, and it's like a big change for your industry to go for it. And we truly believe that there are the efforts towards moving into a more sustainable side and more power optimal side of the operations. But coming a related question, Dan, to you, because we see energy demand for data center is all-time high now. How are the storage service providers addressing that sustainability goal for an enterprises? Because you have that pivotal positions of looking how the data centers can be more impactful and effective with respect to the power consumption side. So maybe your views on it, Dan, would be very helpful.
Yeah, I mean,
Can you done a little bit of shifting your camera base because I can't see you well, so that would be helpful.
It's unfortunately I'm here in Seattle where it's very rarely sunny, but we hit one of those special days where it is and the sun's hitting me just right. So apologies for that. You hit the nail on the head, though, and this is a conversation we have with, I can't think of any large customers where we're not having the conversation around space, power, cooling, energy consumption, the costs associated with that, the role Pure Storage or any of the vendors that they work with can play around that. There is no way that power budgets for data centers are going to keep up with the demands of AI and GPU processing and everything associated with that. So every single customer, if they aren't already deeply concerned about this, thinking about this, making a strategy around it, should be doing that right away. So that's kind of point number one. I think storage vendors, some are doing this better than others. I think we do this very, very well. It's probably an area Pure's best in class, but is something they can bring to the table. All flash technologies help, right? Obviously, disk-based storage takes up just a lot more space, consumes a lot more energy. That's one piece of it, but not all flash is kind of created equal. And there's off-the-shelf flash, which just about every other storage vendor uses. Pure made a decision a number of years ago, it's probably been about 7-8 years now, to design our own flash modules. And we did that initially so we could control the firmware and control the quality of the software and the user experience. But the other byproduct of that was we were able to design a much more dense flash drive or flash module. And so late last year, we released a 75 terabyte direct flash module. Coming soon will be 150 terabyte. In several years will be at 300 terabytes on a single flash drive. So the amount of data we can store on a very, very small footprint at a correspondingly very low energy consumption is really kind of the game-changing element there. And customers should be pushing their storage vendors to create the densest, most efficient architectures they can. I think that's probably the leading role that a storage provider can help the customer in their data centers. Obviously, always moving to the cloud and getting that out of your own data center, but there's still power and energy consumption that happens somewhere. It's just either on your site or on another site, but that problem persists.
I agree. And I think that the initiatives around flash drives, which are more effective we are, at least when we are talking to multiple enterprises now, this is coming as one of the top most discussions in most of our conversations, while initially it was more about creating those large storage spaces, big data to operate on and get more agility around. I think the discussion shifting around how do you make it more sustainable. And with the initiatives on those side, it plays very, very important role to have those products in market, which we could take along with you to the customer and make that position around to it. But coming on the similar side, then you also see that GPU are selling differentiated AI solutions, which depending on the enterprise customer needs. What are the key challenges on implementing that solutions from data storage side? Because we still believe that when we are talking to the customers, they are talking about those data storage and heterogeneous data sources coming together and helping that execution. But when you see it from your pure storage position, how do you see that these new differentiated AI solutions and heavy compute ecosystems coming together, and what does it mean for enterprises, and where do you see that implementation challenges comes and how do you really solve for those from your business model perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, the easier part is how we solve for it, which is designing the right sort of systems with the right performance profiles, balancing read and write and things like that are going to meet the customer's needs. So I think the point the customers have to think about is it's moving from primarily text-based data to now needing to support images, videos, audio files, and really kind of more multi-dimensional performance. And that's one of the things that kind of the first things they have to keep in mind. And are the storage systems architected in a way to do that? Do they have consistent real-time performance? Again, are they optimized and having the appropriate mixture for reads and writes and the various kind of multi-dimensional models that customers are going to throw at them from Gen AI? That's really kind of the biggest thing customers have to think through. And then is their infrastructure ready to support the multitude of data types? Are they using the right sort of databases? We see obviously vector DBs and things like that now kind of rising in popularity to support that. So that's really kind of it at the heart of the customer. From our end as a vendor, what we have to do is be able to, as our technology partner, is know where the market is heading and the kind of performance requirements and requirements that are going to be needed to meet those sort of things, and build that into our products and have that ready to go. And really advise our customers on how they can take best advantage of that.
Awesome. No, I think you are right, Dan. And I think that's where the products and innovations around those play a very, very important role. How do you build it across? Coming back to Suresh, to you would see there is I don't get a better word, but it's kind of a big play monopoly in a Bay Area by similar company of yours into creating those when it comes to Gen AI LLM models. Okay, what is your AMD counter, or if it's not a counter, how do you see that your positioning coming into play? Because this industry has been developed and groomed by few of you guys into the silicon space, and how do you see that countering or picking up AMD space into the similar Gen AI LLM models? Though you touch base, but I think little more insight on it will be very helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and I think our competition has done a really good job in putting the AI GPUs that really handle large LLMs. And it's not just about the hardware, it's kind of as much about, or maybe even more so about the software ecosystem as it is about the hardware. So with that said, if you heard our CEO, Dr. Lisa Su, kind of when she unveiled and launched the MI300X Instinct line of GPUs, this was late last year. We talked about seeing a $400 billion TAM opportunity in 2027 for AI chips. So there is a lot more demand in our customer base than the supply. That's a good thing. That said, we want to make sure that our hardware, supported by our firmware and software infrastructure, is also top of the class. So from that perspective, if you look at MI300X, which is our latest GPUs on the roadmap that we launched, it's very kind of focused towards driving fast inference. A lot of workload, a lot of compute in the AI space is inference. Of course, there's training too. And one of the key elements to doing inference is having very high bandwidth memory and very low latency access to that memory, in addition to having strong cores. And that's where we have kind of put in a lot of investment, development to really make sure that along with strong core, we have 2x high bandwidth memory in our chips. And that really is showing up in some of the inference benchmarks we shared versus our competition, versus the A100s and H100s in that launch event. So that's a hardware piece of it. And I think we have the hardware address. We will be kind of launching new products. Our competition will be launching new products. We have GTC coming next week, so a lot of interesting announcements that you will hear on both sides. But now let me come to software a little bit, right? What's happening is our strategy, the direction we took, is to go open source. AMD believes very strongly in open source software, whether it's traditional compute or AI. So our ROCm, which is equivalent to CUDA, is an open source architecture which supports multiple frameworks like PyTorch, Onyx, etc., etc. It supports various libraries. And in fact, you can take the existing CUDA kernels and really use our tools to port that from to our Instinct GPU. So what we're trying to make sure is we have the highest performing and very cost efficient hardware, GPU AI hardware. We are ensuring that the software is open source so that you can get the benefit of the community. We are making sure that, and it also helps to not get locked in. We're also making sure that it's reaching the ecosystem partners with, I mentioned earlier, Meta, Microsoft, and Oracle announcing their adoption of that. So that's all the GPU side of things, but we have a distinct advantage on top of it, right? 90% of 90% of AI inferencing still happens on a CPU today. And for models under like 10 billion parameters, CPU inferencing could be a lot more cost effective than using a GPU from a cost perspective, right? So you kind of take the industry leading CPUs for AI ML and then add to the latest GPU lines from a hardware perspective that gives us the continuity. Open source software differentiates us from a closed source software, and a lot of our partners and customers have really loved our approach towards open sourcing our ROCm software for AI and ML. And then, of course, on top of that, we need to make sure customers who are using incumbent solutions can easily port to AMD-based CPU and GPU chips, and we have various tools that we have put out. With that, we are getting a lot of strong feedback, a lot of strong adoption. This is public. When we launched in December, Lisa said we had about $2 billion for the GPUs. Within short 3 weeks after that, when we announced our first quarter, that guidance was raised to $3.5 billion publicly. So it's a space where we are seeing a lot of interest, adoption, and business growth for us.
Well, thanks, Suresh. And I think you touch base on multiple aspects, and one obviously a high performance compute side of it on hardware, then bringing across those platforms together, and very interesting subject on open source, and from the fraternity which we come from, and the audiences here from the semicon and high tech vertical, I can tell you, when we are creating our innovation labs, discussing multiple solutions, I think open source is something that comes to a larger extent into our discussions while we build across, because it becomes little easier for doing the hands-on developments and creating those partnerships little more stronger from the use case perspective. So I think, yes, that's a unique positioning to be in, Suresh. And I truly believe that these tons of events will change. You also touch base on porting side of it. When we are seeing the customers, they are into a discussions around to it, and porting could be because of any of the reasons, because of the combinations of right GPU, CPU coming, as you said, less than 10 billion. There's a better opportunity to go for CPU rather than investing on high compute GPU side of it. So we are taking those discussions around, and those easy portings are a part of the discussions when we are taking it to a customer. And your point of view really helps us and substantiate to 130, 140 plus audience being here around how this plays a role when we work across to it. A very important aspect which we all also are currently putting on, as we said, we have around 100 million plus invested already into our innovation labs, and very soon we are opening few more, including in Bay Area, to really jointly co-create customer oriented solutions. And many of the partnerships, we will try to create those use cases in these innovation labs. It would be very interesting for audiences to know and learn from both of you. How do you foster innovation in your organization? Because you guys are really seeing it from a lens where the real hardcore heavy lifting is happening. So maybe, Suresh, your point of view, if you give a perspective on how AMD see that innovation happening, and from your, and encourage those young talent to build on the innovation side to it. And maybe then I will go to you on Dan. How do you see innovation in your particular ecosystem in the pure storage side?
All right. Thanks, Atit. Yeah, I think our fundamental tenet or guiding principle based on which our technology, like our whole company is based, is purely innovation. In this field where really it's a very tight competition, we would be dinosaurs if we do not innovate on a daily basis. So right now, there is a lot of innovation culture that kind of comes down all the way from Lisa, or CEO Dr. Lisa Su, and it kind of really trickles down to the entire company, right? Few 5 years ago, I mean, this probably a lot of audience knows this, right? AMD was in the server space in the early 2000s. And then for various reasons, one of them being lack of innovation, we could not get there. Now in 2017, 2018, we launched our first EPYC processor, and it was a completely innovative architecture with regards to we were the first ones to adopt that chiplet technology that really gives us that manufacturing scale, higher yields, lower cost, a lot of flexibility. And within the short 5 years since we launched the first one, where we had almost 0% of the server CPUs, we are now at north of 32% share within the short 5 years. It's very hard to win share in this market, but within the last 5 years, we went from almost 0 to north of 32%. That wouldn't have been possible if we were a me too kind of a technology. That became possible because we completely reimagined how the CPUs, server CPUs, need to be done, right? In terms of chiplet architecture, in terms of within, if you take every CPU core, what we do within. More importantly, I think Dan was touching on this point earlier. The conversation used to be dollar per core. Now the conversation is moving to dollar per core per watt. So the power is energy efficiency is very important. Every new rack you put in the data center, given the power limitations, there's an opportunity cost. You have to take something out, which means you need to make sure that we play our role and put the most energy efficient devices out there. So that takes a whole lot of innovation as well. So that comes on a daily basis. And what we have done in the CPU space now, we are very excited to see similar things play out in the GPU, AI GPU side of things as well. We're constantly working with our partners. We're working with Microsoft on a daily basis on AI PC, which is a very, very exciting area for us to embed AI within your devices. so that less and less goes to the edge or to the cloud, right? So there's innovation built in like every single step of the way in this journey. And just to reiterate, it starts from our CEO, Dr. Lisa Su, and really trickles down through the entire organization.
Excellent, Suresh. And I think you're right. When you see innovation, we have also seen when it moves from top down, as you said, from Dr. Lisa, really challenging us to take it the complete journey side to it. It plays across as a part of your DNA to the ecosystem side to it. And great to know and hear from you on it. Dan, maybe how do you see the innovations? Because your space is also becoming more and more interesting and complex as well now, with
Yeah.
data storage, security coming together, and so many parameters. How do you see innovation for fostering in your ecosystem currently?
Right. So I think it is becoming, for us, it's always been interesting. I think for the rest of the space, it is becoming more so. I like Suresh's answer a lot, although for us, I think we think about it slightly differently. And it's probably more outside in and customer in. And I'll take it to the founding of Pure Storage. The reason our company was created and existed was really looking at an industry with a big customer problem. And you took storage, which is this mission critical technology, but the accepted user experience was you pay a lot to purchase these mission critical devices. You take 6 months to get them into production. Once you get them into production, they're very, very hard to use and complicated. And then maybe you get 2 years of shelf life before you have to take that system down, go take your applications and your business offline, and go migrate to another box. It was really about as poor of a customer's experience as you could imagine. And everything we've designed ever since then to both enter this market and continue to innovate, continue to grow, continue to push forward has been rooted in how do we eliminate challenges for our customers and make things that were previously acceptable incredibly different. How do we make the hard easy? That is a tenet of all of our software design. Everything we do, how much more automation can we pull in? How can we surround, and as new demands happen, as you talked about cyber resilience or cybersecurity a bit, and protecting our customers' data, helping them to eliminate threats from bad actors. Now we have the innovation push from AI and generative AI and LLMs and all the other things that's going to create for customers and advantages. That just creates new challenges for them. And for us, that is our innovation requirement, and the thing that pushes us is how do we make those challenges minimal? How do we eliminate it? How do we automate it? How do we streamline it and make it and meet those customer demands? So that's really kind of at the heart of all of our product design and engineering. Kind of stands by those tenets and guiding principles.
Awesome. That's excellent, Dan. And how do you think then AI is playing role in this? Is there a AI component that's helping you in storage provisioning on the infrastructure side? How is your organization adopting to those AI kind of a needs as you are moving forward while developing on the innovation perspective side to it?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's obviously, I touched on it slightly earlier, but there's how do we use AI ourselves to make our own processes more productive, whether it's in writing of documentation and things that can support our customers, and then freeing up cycles and resources for employees to do more things. So there's our own internal use of AI, but then also how can we use AI in our products and actually put generative AI into the products. There's some things I can't quite share the details on yet, but I've seen demos of how we are looking at creating chat assistants and generative AI assistants to not just manage the infrastructure and automate storage operations and tasks, but also help our customers really get a lot more out of the data that's sitting on the arrays.
Yeah, excellent.
So we look at it kind of on both those vectors.
Yeah, and I think that is very, very important, because those adoption of AIs into your current product and ecosystem really help partners like us to really position our services around it, and that is where I believe it plays a very, very important role while you build it across and take it to the market. Coming back to you, Suresh, from your product perspective, as you see the market becoming more intense on competition, everybody's those distinguished features are getting kind of diminished day by day by different players, including yourself. What do you think are your and you have touched base in, in your previous query to it, but I would like to re-emphasize, what do you think AMD product differentiator that you bring? Because this is the audience which is here, are really working across with multiple enterprises. So if we really need to visualize how does the AMD AI solutions and distinguished products coming, a little more view to it. And maybe a second part of question is around what are your efforts on bringing those sustainability side on the data centers, while you are presenting it across? Because when we are hearing a conversation with the customers, the CIs are talking about what does it make for us to reduce the rack space currently, so that we
Yeah.
can have those AI GPUs in the same data centers coming together. So how do we really go ahead and play in that space along with you in the partnership? Maybe these are the two questions I have for you.
Yeah. Thanks, Atit. Let me kind of try to address the second one first, and then I'll come back to the AI differentiators for us, right? So yeah, I think the two trends that we really see from our enterprise customers are data center consolidation. A lot of enterprises are still running very, very legacy hardware because it was working. They had the space. Now with them having to really go add more features to their customer-facing applications like Gen AI, they're all kind of either modernizing, some cases, many cases migrating to the cloud and consolidating their workloads. For an enterprise, if the workloads used to take like 30 racks of servers, they're looking legacy. They're looking at how can I consolidate in within 5 racks. So as part of that, there are several strategies and techniques the customers are using, but I think the most important one is really modernizing to the latest and the greatest that's out there, right? Because if you look at our latest line of server CPUs, and if you look at the energy efficiency, there's a lot of talk in the town that ARM is the most energy efficient kind of CPU. And most of the people look at, what is the TDP, power dissipation spec of an ARM, and it's, let's say, 225 watts. What's it for AMD CPU? Oh, it's 360 watts. So ARM CPU would be more energy efficient. But the truth cannot be further away from that. In all our kind of physics courses, we learned that energy is a kind of function of two, right? How much unit power you're consuming and how much time you take to process the workload. If your unit power consumption is small, but you have to take 10 times the more, like keep the cores 10 times more active, then the total power to perform a certain workload or throughput is going to be higher, even though per unit is smaller. So if you look at spec power numbers that are there outside for AMD CPUs, you'll see how more power and energy efficient our x86 CPUs are, even versus the latest ARM processors. So that's one key element. We have a commitment that we have publicly revealed to the market and to our customer base. It's called 30 by 25, which is increase the energy efficiency by 30x between 2020 and 2025. Every year, our CTO, Mark Papermaster, provides an update, and we are ahead of the curve. We are in 2024, so we are just getting the 2023 data right now. But the first 3 years, we are ahead of that 30x energy efficiency curve. So that's our commitment, and that's what we are doing really. And by the way, this applies to CPU, GPUs, and some of our latest acquisitions, right? Not just one chip. So that was one part, right? How are we kind of making sure that we are doing our part to the sustainability? It's not just enough for us to do the part. Like for Dan and me at AMD, we're doing our part in getting the components and the ingredients most energy efficient, best architecture, best technology platform. We are building our products. That goes into our CSPs and OEMs. They are doing their part to really make sure that data center PUE, power utilization efficiency, is as optimal as possible. And then the customers need to do their part to make sure that they are choosing the right infrastructure and not idling the course while not using it, because that all adds to the power. So it's a whole stack. And that's where you guys come in and really guiding them, Tech Mahindra folks, right, to really get the best. So I think it's a whole thing that every actor here needs to play the part to make towards sustainability. The second piece I'll hit very shortly on the AI side. I think I mentioned earlier, our key differentiators here are we are not just we look at AI from like IoT to edge to data center to cloud, and we have products through the entire kind of chain with AI PCs, with CPUs at the edge inferencing, CPUs and GPUs in the data center, and CPUs and GPUs in the cloud, hardware-wise. Software-wise, completely open source, easy to port, do not make lives difficult for our customers than what it already is, make it rather easier. So that's our key motto. And then, yeah, I think that's basically how we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace.
Oh, thanks, Suresh. And I think what excites me personally is the vision of 30x25, 30 by 25, and at some point of time, I think we as a unit and Tech Mahindra, we would also like to have our strategy aligned towards how do we work across, because this is coming to a conversation every now and then, and you really touch base on it, by remembering me one formula 30 by 25. So I think excellent
Yeah.
on that. Dan, and I am getting buzz of questions across from chat also. We will open it. But my final question to Dan, to you is, from a pure storage perspective, if we need to really have that distinguished, elevated pitch that my customers, we can take it across from a differentiation perspective, what would be, Dan, from your perspective? And then we will open it to Neha for the questions which we are getting in chat. Dan, over to you.
So just so I understand it, so your question is what's the Pure Storage pitch with Tech Mahindra that you take to your customers?
Yeah, it's like, what do you take to your enterprise? It's not only with Tech Mahindra, I would say. What is that distinguished feature, as what Suresh mentioned around his approach on whether it's on open source or bringing multiple CPUs, GPUs together? What do you think from a pure storage perspective that you are taking as to the enterprise side to it as distinguished side?
So from a pure storage side, what I would say is think about a solution that's going to first be as future-proofed as humanly possible. This market is evolving so quickly, so fast, so many new technologies and capabilities and requirements are coming down that quick that any vendor you choose to do business with, whether it's a consulting partner or technology partner, needs to be able to adapt and stay a step ahead of where the market is going. And can they do that for you completely non-disruptively in a way that's not going to impact your business operations and the models you have going and everything else? That is probably the single biggest value prop I would point to for Pure, and things that I would challenge customers to really think about is, can they get something that truly is 100% future-proofed and non-disruptive in how they go forward? Performance, those kind of things are table stakes.
Awesome. And I think that's very important, that business continuity and looking for a future from their implementation perspective, because these are something that you really built up for at least for 3 to 5 years period before you really go back and look into it, and your complete AI models, your business strategy is getting along. How do you create your right storage spaces and bring the efficiencies around to it? So thank you, Dan, Suresh, for building your point of view on multiple aspects that I could think of, but I think we have a large forum here. Neha, maybe you would like to pick few questions and before we take this forward.
So we have a question from Shashidhar, who says that, is there any cost benefit advantage of adopting AI-infused silicon technologies?
Maybe Suresh, you would like to take that?
Yeah. So if I understand the question, Shashi, correct me if I'm wrong. Part of that question is, how is AMD using AI technology in building its own silicon, and what is the benefit to the end customer? Is that the right understanding?
Yeah, I think so, Suresh. That's the one, that how does this cost and benefit play while you train? Because even if you go for porting kind of a system or, try to work across, how does that AMD ecosystem brings that cost and benefit to the customer side to it?
Yeah, so because there are two parts to it, right? One is like, let me kind of touch on both aspects really quick. So yeah, we're kind of starting to leverage a lot of AI technology into designing our own chips to improve the productivity of and shrink the design cycles of our chipset. What used to take a lot of manual hours to look at all the simulation runs and really find out like the defects and the failures and whatnot is now kind of happening very quickly through the AI technology that we are already adopting within our kind of chip design framework. what that kind of helps us is to kind of bring better quality, high reliability parts faster to the market for our customers to really go adopt. The second piece is what is like the AI products that we are launching out with our OEMs and our cloud partners. Things, right? Getting access to a GPU, AI GPU that can do 100 billion parameters or more is becoming more and more difficult, right? Because there's a supply demand imbalance here. The demand is much higher than supply. What we are trying to do is to bring equal and even better hardware accessible to our end customers, either through your favorite OEM, Lenovo, Dell, Supermicro, or your favorite cloud provider, and want to make sure that it's easier for our customer base to go use it. So if you had written a code in CUDA, we have all the tools necessary and the support to really help you migrate that to ROCm. And in many cases, it's just automated. If you are at a framework level, like PyTorch, Onyx, you don't even have to worry. Everything's under the hood. But if you have written custom CUDA kernels, there are tools that you can really go use that to run it on an AMD hardware, which is now slowly becoming available in various places. Now, I want to make sure that all the AI practitioners are getting their hands on the highest performing GPUs to really go build those AI features into your enterprise kind of workflows. I hope that answered the question.
No, I think excellent, Suresh. I think you are right. It's like building on the ecosystem together and bringing, right AI frameworks, using open source, looking into the larger side of developing your own practice around to it, get those cost and benefit. That's how at least I see, you could have a solution, but there's someone who integrates and bring it together and execute it on the ground. That makes the difference on bringing the real optimal products and solutions to the enterprises side to it. Neha, maybe any other question? Second question, Neha?
Yes. So the other question is for Dan. So over the years, storage infra positioning and planning for the future has been challenging, especially with a latent fear of understanding provisioning in mind. So it would be helpful to know how AI-enabled storage is helping in optimizing storage infra positioning and reduce the time and anxieties related to future planning. This is a question posed by Sujit.
So I'm not sure you'll have seen too much of that come into market yet, right? I can't think of a storage vendor who is using AI capabilities to do the provisioning planning. I think you will probably start to see others who are looking to do that and potentially build that in. It's a question of, is their infrastructure, do they have the data? Do they have the pieces of their infrastructure to be able to take advantage of that? But maybe not to make too direct of a plug, but if that's something you have been struggling with your storage vendors, we should probably talk, because that's an area we've actually simplified quite a bit, even without implementing generative AI technologies within the user experience, which is something we're obviously looking at.
Sure. No, that's helpful, Dan. And I think your perspective is right. We will also come back to you if we see those kind of discussions coming across and take it jointly to the enterprises as we move forward.
The next question is from Aman. So with the increasing integration of AI into various industries, there is concern about potential job displacement. How do you see this affecting traditional roles within enterprises, and what strategies can companies implement to mitigate the impact on their workforce?
No, I feel, from my perspective, I can address, and then this question is for all the panelists here. What we see, Aman, is we see it's not a displacement of any roles. If I see like in the current ecosystem, it's all about reskilling. It's about learning new techniques, new skills, adopting the new ways of working as we move forward. Those monotonous job which can be done by machine, we were doing maybe taking over by AI, Gen AI replacement, but there's a lot more knowledge work that's going to happen. Where I see into part of multiple discussions and industry forums, I can see there is a common view coming that human and machines are coexisting. and they continue to coexist. The only thing is that brain power of executing what you are doing versus what machine could do can only make it little more harmonious as we move forward in our journey side to it. That's what I see to it. And we ourselves are investing Aman very heavily on reskilling our trained forces. We are bringing a lot more new modules where you can reskill yourself, and we are executing it across the company wide. But over to you, Suresh, and Dan, your views, at least that's what we see from Tech Mahindra perspective.
Yeah, I can maybe weigh in for 30 seconds here and then pass it over to Dan. I was in another roundtable and this question really came up like earlier this week. One of the guys said something that really struck with me and I would like to share it over here, right? It's not really that AI is coming after your jobs. It's really people with AI skills are coming after your job. So the only way to defend that is really go skill up on these technologies. And to touch to another point that Atit was making, it's going to be still human in the loop, right? So humans are great at thinking like serializing, but thinking about solving very complex kind of problems, but they're serial. Machines are great at really parallelizing and solving like multiple like parallel computations at the same time, but not, and none of it is uniquely as complex as a human brain. And really what we need is somewhere in between the diagonal, if you can imagine that, human in the loop. So AI is trying to accelerate the human in the loop versus eliminate the human in the loop for these workloads. So now all jobs like, and another panelist was also talking about it, saying that, hey, there are still some people in this company which works on bringing the largest electronic equipments. They're kind of taking X-rays and measuring, and they have so much comfort in doing that. But what if they put that on AI, which it can do it automatically, computer vision or something? That time from that resource could be utilized in innovating, where humans are good at innovating, right? So I know it's a little bit cliched answer. There is concerns. Nothing will comfort everybody everywhere, but generally the right way to think about it is it's coming. You can't do anything about it. It's basically go run with it.
No, thanks, Suresh. I think great perspective, and I think this question is coming all across, and many of us share the similar view. Just go ahead with the wave and try to reskill, try to rebuild the new ways of working as you move forward. Dan, over to you. How do you see this? Because this is prevalent to every industry.
Yeah, I love that answer, and I guess what I'll add is skilling up is critical, because at the end of the day, we should think about this less of AI coming for our jobs and more how can AI help scale me, right? And take things off of my plate and do things that I've normally have been spending hours on or parts of my day. I don't know too many people who have loads of free time at work. So it is how can I use AI and generative AI assistants to augment myself and make myself 25% more effective, 50% more effective and more productive. That's really, I think, the huge benefit that's going to come out of it, and kind of the mindset information workers need to embrace.
Awesome. I think you rightly said, Dan, it's all about augmenting, utilizing it and when I see back, it's not when the calculators were launched in the initial days, they took away jobs. They really helped in getting the better computation and better speed to the market, so same ways for computers. So I think that's going to continue, but I think we are on top of the hour. Neha, just one last question we will take, and then we can close it up. It's a great insightful session, but any last question you want to take, Neha, and then we close this up?
So we'll quickly address this question from Ashish. What are the challenges that enterprises might face when adopting AI-driven solutions?
Okay, great. So maybe Dan, you would like to take first, and then we take it to Suresh, because this applies to all of us. So what are the top 1 or 2 challenges that you see while enterprises are adopting the fast-paced AIs as they're moving forward?
So number 1 challenge is having your data in a position to actually get value out of it. I think that's probably the most foundational thing, and it's forcing customers to really think through the fragmentation and the retention and just the broader data strategy. That's kind of I'll call it the infrastructure IT related challenge. And the business related challenge is, what do you want to get out of your AI initiatives? Why are you doing them? What value are they going to drive? What value create? Those are kind of the 2 primary things I think companies need to think through. And then you can kind of, get your way there.
Suresh, your point of view?
Yeah, I'll chime in really quick. I also pretty much going to say what Dan said, right? A lot of Gen AI initiatives in the enterprises really come down to our CIO or our CTO or CEO asked us to do, hey, everybody's doing Gen AI. Why don't you do Gen AI? Versus like, hey, really, what is the business outcome that is driving? Understanding like how can you monetize the investment you are putting in the Gen AI work, and how would it benefit to your customer base? A lot of enterprises are still trying to figure that out, and it's unclear what exact use cases they can benefit from and monetize. That's one key big challenge, and I think Dan touched on the other one that I was going to touch as well. Like the answer, AI is data. It's all. They say data. They used to say data is the new oil. Now they say data is the new code. So your AI is as good as your data, right? It's garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't have your data structured and ready for AI engines to take in and get the right insights, it's going to be. So they have to figure out the entire ETL, ELT strategy, make sure there's vector databases that Dan touched about earlier. It's a lot of stuff. Like in the hype cycle of AI, we are kind of still at the initial kind of phases. So yeah, that's how I'll round it up.
Oh, thanks, Suresh. Thanks, Dan. I think I can't agree more with you on this last question. Especially on monetizing what is the use case. When we are talking to, there could be multiple use cases you come across, but when you are investing in your GPU capacities, trying to look into your data center optimization, building your data lakes, creating the storage frameworks, I think the topmost is monetization. And I personally also feel as we move forward, next quarter would be very, very exciting to see how many use cases that comes out of this monetization and where this value stream of data, AI, partnerships coming together in terms of building the next matrix of things. It's been very, very enriching experience for personally me, Suresh, and Dan interacting with you. Some of the things which I will always remember as part of my this interaction cycle is 30-25. What you, Suresh, you said. I think that's a way to go on the resource augmentation side. That, as you Dan mentioned about, it's all about building the reskilling, building those innovation fostering around to it, and finally, taking your views on your positioning on AMD on open source side, and Dan putting pure storage around that flash storage side of it. I think those are the viewpoints how the industry is going to converge and take it forward. But thank you so much for sharing our views. We from Tech Mahindra, thank you. Thanks you a lot for joining and starting this series. We have learned from these experiences, and my audiences here, I hope it's been an enriching experience for you as well. Neha, any closing comments? Otherwise, we are good to go. Thank you. Look forward to see you in the Bay Area very soon. And Suresh, looking forward to meet you and Dan very soon. Thank you so much. Neha,
Absolutely.
any closing remark?
Thank you so much, Dan and Suresh, for your contribution and your insightful comments. So we're definitely honored to have this opportunity to host such a distinguished panel. We look forward to future collaborations and continued exchange of ideas as we plan to continue the series. We will share the link with you all shortly to the panel discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for the time. Pleasure.
Thanks.